she's back and she's at Queen's Park and she's having fun. And yesterday was her first day back to school. What was it like? Did the Greenbelt thing just blow up? How are all you guys handling it?
Well, I think many of us were very excited to return. I actually had a social media post of me sitting on the stairs to the legislature yesterday saying I was waiting for the doors to open. And I can't believe how many people went and clicked on that photo. It's like we were all waiting. And I did see some trepidation, though, in some members on the government side who kind of went, oh, man, we got to go in here. We got to face the heat. And, my heart kind of hurts for some of those folks because they are good people. But, man, it would have been very tough being a member, in their riding the past several weeks, talking about this nonstop and being painted with that same brush and trying to defend the actions of the premier, who we know what has been uncovered. So yesterday was like the first day back to school. I felt like a little kid again. Somebody texted me and said, are you complete with your, Barbie lunch pail and everything else? And it did. It felt that way because, I am eager to get back there. I have my list of to do with me because there's so many things that are failing Ontarians, failing the people of Haldimand and Norfolk. And, I'm just eager to get back at it. I've been hearing all these things over the summer months from constituents, and it's just time we start hammering away on this government. And, whether you're a conservative or not, this is the government of the day. They are the government of the day. And there's one thing that I can't stand, and I heard it yesterday, and we heard it when the Liberals were in power as well. They continually blamed Mike Harris. And now we have a government who is now continuing to blame the Wynne Liberals. And I say, like, come on, guys, you are the government of the day. Stop pointing the finger. Nobody wants to hear that. It's disrespectful, number one, and it creates no hope for the taxpayer. When you're standing there and you're blaming a politician or blaming a leader or a premier from, 10 years ago or more, what kind of hope does that offer to the people who elected you?
Did Doug Ford apologize yesterday? And was it sincere? Like I heard he did. I don't know. You were there. Give me an update on that.
So I paid very close attention. I actually took notes during question period, and it was not lost on me. The premier said, I've apologized. And that's what makes for a good leader, is somebody who can admit that they made a mistake. And I chuckled to myself, and I thought, what mistake is he actually sorry for? Is he sorry for opening up the Greenbelt in the first place to development? Or is he sorry for the biased, position that he granted a bunch of insiders? Or is he sorry he got caught? What is he sorry for? What mistake is he actually sorry for? And, despite how you feel about, because there are some people who say, I don't have a problem with him opening up parts of the Greenbelt. I can respect if you have that opinion. But what you can't turn a blind eye to is the process that has been uncovered. And the fact that my constituents have told me over the summer that they're really, really struggling. Some of them are having a hard time paying the mortgage. They're hard time paying the rent, insurance, the necessities of life, Dave. And yet here is blatant, hey, here's a process to, help make my friend or my developer buddy more money when these people are, some of the wealthiest people in our province.
To me, I know there's an ongoing investigation. I don't know where it's all going to end. I don't know if everything will be thrown out on the Greenbelt. You'll keep us up to date, I'm sure, on that. What's going to happen there? But
there was also some other interesting things yesterday. The Ontario Health Coalition spent most of the day. The media says thousands of people showed up. I don't know if there were thousands. I was out on the front lawn looking for some folks. I know there were some people from Port Dover there. And I was looking for them, but in the sea of people, I couldn't find them. So I took some pictures. I posted them on social media. They were largely talking about, the privatization of the healthcare system, but they also talked about, some of the bigger problems that we see, nurse shortages, things like that in the healthcare system. And, I go back to the idea that, yes, the government boasts that they spend more money on healthcare than ever before. Yes, they do. They absolutely do. But we're getting poorer results. So it's not a money issue. It's a mismanagement issue. And you can keep, saying that we're throwing more money at it. That's not solving the problem. So when money isn't solving the problem, it's time to go back to square one. It's time to go back to the drawing board and figure out what you can do better, what efficiencies you can find, and how you can be efficient, but improve patient care.
I do want to touch base because you brought up a good point there when you're talking about people being able to afford it. And this was my next issue I wanted to throw at you. In 2022, I want to give you some examples. The price of vegetables went up 12%. Baked goods went up 15%. Meat went up 7.6%. Suddenly you're at, a 35% increase in your groceries. That's 2022. A lot of folks are struggling. Like is the provincial government looking at anything they can do down the road to help these folks? Because it's only going to get worse. And we don't even have the 2023 numbers yet, but everybody already knows they've gone up again. Hopefully they're starting to level out.
But so my staff and I have been keeping an eye on the the numbers with respect to inflation over the past few months. And today I'm working on my newsletter for both the Caledonia Fair and the Norfolk County Fair, and we have updated numbers in the newsletter. But people can't afford it. Like I say, people told me all summer, listen, you know what, things are getting increasingly worse. And I would never, ever be the person to complain about my income. But what I will complain about is my outcome, my spending that I have no control over, the things that I can't control continue to go up and up. And what about those folks on a fixed income? Look, we have seniors who have worked so hard and have saved and done all the right things, and yet they're remortgaging. They're looking at different options. That is not fair in your golden years to be worried about how you're going to pay the next bill.
I want your opinion on this because I think it's a long-term problem. I think we should be, do you think, my opinion, not yours, I think we should be bracing. This is a long-term, this isn't going to go away overnight, folks. Like, we got to start being more resourceful. And do you see it that way?
I'd say buckle up. I want to be, I always say that I want to provide hope to people. But right now I'm saying, you know what, buckle up. Because this is far from over. And I listen to podcasts on my way to and from Toronto, and I was listening to one yesterday on the housing market out of China. And I was waiting for the host of the show to ask the panel, hey, where do you see this collapse occurring next? And they listed 3 countries, and Canada was one of them. Yes, and it wasn't a shock to me. But yet that's all we hear about. The reason I am so excited to get back to Queen's Park is because I want to remind this government that, yes, while you're building homes, number one, you got to move people around. They need some place to go, not just sitting on a highway for 5-6 hours trying to get to work. But number two is that we have an affordability issue in this province. And yet I don't hear anybody on the floors of the legislatures talking about them. And I think I mentioned this when I came back from Detroit from the Midwestern Legislative Conference in July. The talking heads on stage said, the electorate is so angry and we can't figure out why. And then 5 minutes later, they were talking about a survey that they had conducted across the Midwest. They talked about how taxpayers don't believe that the issues that matter to them are making it to the floors of the legislatures. Well, I'm like, dudes, this is why the electorate is so angry. Can't you got to correlate them. And the survey is not wrong. The survey is not wrong because I am frustrated as a legislator. I am frustrated that all we ever talk about is building homes. And this fall session is going to be full of that again with respect to the Greenbelt. And should the Greenbelt, the issues associated with the Greenbelt be exposed? Yes, they should. But while we are talking about all of that, all these other issues are falling by the wayside, and it scares me. And I'd say to the folks of Haldeman and Norfolk, buckle up. We're a long ways through this.
The one thing we can both appreciate about Haldeman and Norfolk, there's a ton of great food banks. There's lots of services from different church groups that try and help out folks, and you can only stretch that so far too. Because I think we're going to see that need grow again this year substantially, and it's important that we all help where we can, and you got to stick together, folks. Like, you got to stick together because we got to get through this. Yeah, I think provincially, I think Ford might have an opportunity here to help folks, but he's not realizing exactly what you just said. Get down to the grassroots folks that are struggling. I mean, these are the folks, they vote. They need your help. It's what you get paid to do, right? And
absolutely. And we keep talking about labor shortages, and you know, our young people really take the hit on that. You know, our young people don't want to work. Is what we're told. I don't know that is necessarily true, but I do know that why would our kids bust their hump like you and I have done day in and day out when they are continually told, you'll never afford anything, you'll never afford a down payment, you'll never have your own home, you'll never own anything of your own because, you know, the government has messed things up. So how do you incentivize these young people to go out there and bust their hump and be contributing members when we continually tell them how terrible it is?
Yeah, and then you look at the other side of this, and that's one more question. It's not really provincially. It kind of is and kind of isn't, but just the collapse recently of Metroland Media. And you're looking, small community newspapers were the first ones that took the hit. I'm thinking of the Sackham and Haldeman. And again, they're in bankrupt protection, but they're still functioning, and they're still, it was basically a greed grab, really, from what I've read on it. I don't know if you've had an opportunity, but it's something to look into. And it just pissed me off and frustrated me. It's like, there goes another community paper gone, right?
And that's where, you know, it's funny you mentioned that, because those community papers, I mean, I worked in community paper for a long time, and I know how special they were and what they meant to their community. And for some people, that was the only source of news they were getting. They were not, you know, subscribing to a National Post, a Globe and Mail, a Toronto Star, a Toronto Sun. That was their only source of news. And they looked forward to that. And sometimes they got the best local news there, right? They knew what was happening at the town level. Like, I use Township of Delhi, for example. That, you know, I would sit through town council meetings every Monday night and make a deadline for Tuesday morning. And they had the most up-to-date news on what their council was deciding. We no longer have that. And somebody said to me, the protest occurred at my office last week with respect to education and our kids. And, you know, one young fella says to me, you know, Bobbi Ann, how do they sneak this stuff in? And I chuckled and I said, no, they don't sneak it. I said, everything is in public purview. All the legislation, no matter if we're talking, municipal decisions, provincial, federal, it's all out there for us to read. The problem is, for so many years, we have relied on government and media, and we have thought that they were telling us the truth. We thought that they had our best interest in mind. And now we're second guessing that, right? So I said, the information has always been there. You just never went and sought it out because you actually thought you were just being told what you needed to be told and that you were being looked after. And you're not being looked after.
No. And that's a whole nother ball we can get into, but at the same time, it's one of those ones where I think people need to start educating themselves on everything. Take the bull by the horns and look where you need to find the proper information, because I looked at that whole scenario when it went down last week, both in Ottawa, it went down all over the country. And I really saw on both sides a lot of misinformation because they weren't going to look at the curriculum. They weren't going to, you got to, if you're going to bitch and complain, you got to educate yourself on what you're talking about, because if you don't stand a leg. And I really felt I don't want to get in big trouble with anybody, but on both sides, I felt there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of very manipulative words used that really bothered me. And I think we need to, if you boil it all down and you just said, Bobbi, Dave, just talk about it. Just right. I pointed out that years ago, my grandfather, when I met him, every time he would shake my hand, it was an honor thing, and it was a respect thing, and it was a conversation thing. Right. Nobody does that anymore.
Right.
That's and it's just a simple thing to sit down and talk.
And that's what I told the folks out here. And, I would say to the counter protest as well, if you want to come to my my office and you want to stand out here and have a chat with me, I'll be the first one out the door.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to meet with you because we can always learn, right? The conversation needs to be had. And there is misinformation, and it is because it's purposely being done. Media and government is creating, and we've talked about this countless times, the polarization.
Yep.
Polarization is purposeful, and it has always existed in politics, but it is at an all-time high right now, and we have to question why. There is hatred on both sides, and it is so sad. Like, you know, I go back to the idea of why can't we progress with kindness and respect? We don't have to always agree, but we can be kind and we can be respectful. And, you know, I see problems on both sides. And I just think, like, as you said, if people would educate and come together and have the conversation together, but the media and the government has ensured that we are not coming together.
On a local level, would you mediate that kind of conversation with those two parties?
I don't know that I would, to be honest.
Okay.
I'll meet with both, but I'm not sure that I'm the person to do the mediation because, you know, I think they have to come to that conclusion themselves. I think they have to want to do it. And
I got you.
I don't want to, you know, mediate something and then have, you know, a disaster. They have to come, there has to be willingness on both sides. And I don't see that. I don't see it on, you know, I don't see that willingness. And therefore mediating something like that, I don't think at this point in time would work.
And yeah, I just hope that they can find a common ground on some of those issues and get it figured out because, you know, it's the world's going to continue on and there's no sense fighting about it. Let's figure it out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right.
And I do agree, though, you know, I will say that I'm a firm believer that, you know, parents should have the last say or have the say on how their kids, you know, perceive certain things or are taught about certain issues. And I will go back to the whole mental health issue. Everywhere I go, we're talking about kids' mental health. And, you know, there's not enough money to address our kids' mental health. Well, I can tell you why. Because they are so damn confused. I know it. You know, they're afraid of doing the wrong things. Kids innately want to do good. They want to love, they want to be loved, and they want to do the right thing, but they don't know what the right thing is anymore. And they're very conflicted because they may hear something at home that is one way, and then they go somewhere else and it's being presented to them that idea is bad or wrong. And our kids should not be feeling that way at all. And it breaks my heart that we have to spend so much money on children's mental health. I believe it's also unnecessary. If we would just return to teaching our kids to love, you know, and be kind and respectful.
Kids in general don't judge. People do. So I think that's the other part of this problem that we're not really even addressing is I remember years, and I've used this before on you at camp, all our kids would come from all over Norfolk County. No one ever said, where do you live or who are you? They always said, what's your name? Want to play? And I think there's a certain stage that still needs that development, that nurturing that needs to go a long ways. And it will, you know, I think it'll go a long way to helping kids make decisions that affect them, that are personal to them and proper for them. But we should get out of the way sometimes and let kids be kids. We
should let kids be kids. I think I've told you this story about in grade 4, there was a girl, Patricia, who came from Greece. Not a lick of English. She was my best friend. Couldn't understand anything she said. She couldn't understand anything I said. She was my best friend because, you know what? We like to hang upside down on the monkey bars at recess.
Right, exactly.
It's as simple as that, Dave.
It is. I'm not arguing that. I've known that for years. But I think, too, sometimes that's a whole ball of wax that we could get into. And I hope those two parties can actually sit down, have a conversation, figure it out. Because, again, let's get rid of all the distortion and get down to the brass nuts of it all and figure it out. Because I just don't think that's happening. It bothers me tremendously. Your kids and my kids are growing up, you know, but we're still part of the community, and we want to see everyone happy, which is the important thing here. You're going to the fair, I'm sure. Are you ready? Norfolk County Fair, just around
So
the corner.
first we have Caledonia Fair.
Oh,
So
yes, that's coming
we're
up. We're
revving up for Caledonia Fair, and that's always a good one. Starts Thursday night, so I'll come back from Queen's Park and open Caledonia Fair Thursday night, and then be there, spotty Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending what else is on my schedule. And then we go right into, I'm suspecting this Sunday afternoon I'll be setting up my Norfolk County Fair booth, and super excited. I can't believe that Sunday is October 1st already.
I know.
That is insane to me. I feel like I'm a bit behind because I've lost track of time, but I do look forward to Norfolk County Fair for a number of reasons. But first and foremost, I've always said this is an opportunity to catch up with those people that you haven't seen in a year or maybe haven't seen in 10 years. And, you have those good conversations. And it was one of my favorite things last year. I got to open the fair, and it's one of my favorite speeches probably of all time. And I got to articulate what the fair meant to me growing up. And it will always hold a special spot in my heart. And I was so proud and so happy to sit in my own fair booth last year and greet the people of the area. And I look so forward to it again this year.
I'm going to be really interested on our next podcast, because I think you're going to find, I'm interested what you're going to hear from the constituents in both.
Me too.
Because you'll be at both fairs. And I think that's going to sort of, like you said, it'll probably set the tone, right? Again, I think you're on track, obviously, in the right path. But I'm interested to see what they're saying too, because I think it's been another tumultuous year. Like we just, as for both Haldimand and Norfolk and for the province. So it'll be interesting to see what you're gonna hear.
Yeah. Can I put a plug in for something I'm going to talk about tomorrow in the house?
Sure. Yeah.
I usually don't tell anybody what I'm talking about in the house.
So we won't release this till tomorrow then.
No, so we're safe. But a few weeks ago, I went to a very, I was asked to be a guest speaker at a very, very amazing event, and it was called the Ride for Dad. And it's a charitable organization, motorcycle enthusiasts who do a charitable ride for prostate cancer. And I heard stories of folks, who talked about their granddad, their dad, their brother, their son, who, succumbed to a cancer because prostate cancer was allowed to spread throughout their body, causing a secondary cancer. And, there's a simple way to stop this and save billions of dollars in our healthcare system and save those men in our lives that we love so very much, that we want around for Christmas and birthdays and backyard barbecues. And it's allowing regular testing covered by OHIP, the PSA testing. As a female, I can say this. There is testing that helps me with early detection of things that affect me as a female. Why are we not extending that to the males that we are looking after here in this province? 8 other provinces have done it, and Ontario refuses to cover it. So tomorrow I'm going after it on behalf of all men in our lives who deserve to be looked after.
It's not covered? I thought it was covered.
No, it's only covered if your doctor or your health practitioner suspects.
Right.
Okay, so by the time your doctor or nurse practitioner, and we know, I'm going to be sexist here, we know you guys don't like to go to the doctor. I don't like to go to the doctor either. But you guys, I think that the part of the reason that this is not covered at this point in time is because maybe you guys aren't as great at advocating for yourselves, right? Because it's something you don't want to talk about. It's squeamish. And so right now, so many men, by the time their doctor suspects that they have prostate cancer, it's already spread. So if we cover, and we know those guys, my dad and other guys in my life who would show up to get a PSA cut. And if they said, hey, Jim, you owe us $50, he'd be like, well, I'm not doing it now. And he'd turn around and go, right? It'd be his excuse not to do it. And we women who love, you men, we want you guys to have that done because we want you around. So we don't want any reasons for you not to have the test done. So tomorrow I'm going after that.
Guys, I have mine done. I'm not going to lie to you. It's important to get it done. And it's, you know what? It's peace of mind. Yep. It's exactly what it is. And if there's a situation, get to your doctor, get it checked out. but don't do that. Listen to Bobbi. Go get it checked early.
Well,
Pay the
and then
money.
Bobbi should take her own advice and take care of some things that Bobbi Ann should take care of too. But listen,
One thing at a time.
One thing at a time. I need to take care of you guys, and I will be going after that tomorrow. And I'm very, very pleased to be doing so.
Well, thank you on behalf of men everywhere. I appreciate you looking out for our prostate. it's got to be done.
There's a good headline, isn't it?
Yeah, MPP. Yeah, never mind. We won't even. No, not today. I always have fun when we chat, and I love to catch up with you. But I mean, it's those kind of conversations, like you said, that on an individual basis is so important. Keep pushing the government on all these inflation prices. Keep pushing them on the Greenbelt, man. Make their life miserable, because answers got to be brought out to the table. They got to understand that this is the everyday folks. Follow Norfolk, that's what we are. We're just everyday folks trying to survive. So
absolutely, 100% hardworking people who just basically want to be left alone, but you know what? Want to be treated fairly too. So everybody's, I'm here for you guys.
Yeah, stop by Norfolk County Fair. See Bobbi. Say hello.
Yes,
she's waiting for you.
Come to my booth. Yes.
Yeah, come to her booth.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for doing this again. I always appreciate your time. Get back to work, and we'll talk next month.
You bet. Thanks, Dave.